Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low-quality content you deserve, and today we will be going over new Gym Knight support. Now, first and foremost, if you don't know, which I don't think you can unless you have been watching this channel forever, my first ever archetype that I ever played, back in early 2013, the first actual archetype was Gym Knights, and that deck was, unplayable, to say the least. Back in 2013, it had no modesty of a win condition. It had no way of actually, beating another player in the game. It was nothing but a beat-em-up strategy, and a mediocre one at that. The only good card in the entire archetype was Gym Knight Fusion, which is, I guess Prismaro was pretty good back in those standards too, but those are, the only good cards. So it was, something, but it was a great way to learn, synergies of archetypes and synergies between them. Now, they got new support, and this is where it gets weird. Because in my last video, I said, you are better off playing a deck as its intended playstyle than you are to change the playstyle. What you are about to see is me changing the playstyle of Gym Knights, but this is not because I'm trying to make it something else. It's just that the deck has never actually had an identity. Gym Knight FTK has been the one people really have made the deck out to be. The problem was it's only an FTK because of the very existence of Lady Lapis Lazuli, but in any other scenario, it was never really designed around FTKing the opponent. It just kind of happened to work out that way. So that wasn't really its intended playstyle. It was a beat-em-up deck. And the problem with beat-em-up decks is they're not good. When you have a deck that's solely dictated on just punching for game and has nothing else, even in the best case scenario, you end up with bordering on stun deck like the Tenpais. These strategies aren't very good. So I'm changing the playstyle to kind of allow it to be something. And this works out because when you actually look at the Gym Knight effects, they're so good at generating new fusion materials and generating fusion monsters. But we'll get into it more after I go ahead and demonstrate this combo. I'm actually going to demonstrate two, but the first one, I wanted to show off this card. It might be banned, but only in the TCG, and with the release, advent of these cards, we might get exactly one of these back in the TCG. We'll see. I hope it's not a Six Samurai situation, where we get them back, we get the new cards in the TCG, but the TCG doesn't unban MX Saber Invoker or Summon Sork. So, the actual consistency cards that deck needed are just still banned for no reason. I hope it's not one of those situations, but let's go ahead and resolve Brilliant Fusion. And we are going to dump a new one, Nephrim, or Nephrium, whichever. Then we're going to dump Lazuli. And then finally, there's going to be 3 fusion monsters, and we are going to dump Iolite. And that will allow us to summon the new fusion, which is Master Diamond Dispersion. We're just going to ignore his effect for a while. Now we are going to use the effects in the graveyard. Lazuli can target a normal monster in our graveyard, which is Iolite, because, look at that, Gemini! You are about to see some crazy stuff with this guy. And then we can use Nephrium. We'll discard a random card in our hand to special summon it, and then the Lazuli rollers cycle back the Iolite. Now, this is one of the new monsters, and this is very interesting. It's actually a light monster, which is nice, because Seraphronite just, needed random non-Gym Knights to make, which was kind of weird, even in its own deck, so now that that's been solved, it's nice. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Gym Knight card from your deck to your hand, except itself. Also, any effect damage your opponent would take for the rest of the turn is halved. For the rest of this main phase is halved, I should say. So, they made new support that eliminated the very idea that you can FTK meaningfully with these cards. I'm going to say something. The FTK is not good. It was good when it had all of its resources, but that's way past gone. And these new cards, I think literally one of them can be used with the FTK. So just we're not showing that. That's stupid. But we can add a Gym Knight card from our deck to our hand. And what we are going to add is Gym Knight Void Roots, which this one's weird. Because it's a dark monster, it very much has me under the impression sometime in the future Gym Knights are going to get a dark fusion monster to pair with Seraphonite. So we'll see about that. But this one is the one that can be used with the quote FTK. But this one, you can send one Gym Knight normal monster or Gym Knight fusion from your deck to your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand in defense, which is insane. because that means it not only summons itself, but then it searches Gem Knight Fusion, because this is why this is the most broken card in the archetype. An unlimited amount of times per turn, you can banish a Gem Knight from your graveyard to add this card from your graveyard to your hand. It's literally just Phoenix Blade, but it's a fusion spell. Wow. Alright, now this is where it gets also very interesting, because the other effect on this card is you can immediately after this effect resolves normal summon one Gem Knight monster. So this is our first normal summon. Now, we are going to normal summon, and that allows us to treat this Gemini as an effect monster. Now, we are going to link into Phantom Quartz, and Phantom Quartz on summon can add a Gem Knight card from our deck to our hand, and we are going to add Gem Knight Dispersion. Now, this is a spell that is a card once per turn on which effect you use. Basically, it's a once per turn, but like what you would see on a monster. So you can activate this multiple times, but you can't activate the same effect multiple times, which is kind of strange. But we are going to activate this and use its first effect, which is Gem Knight Fusion. You can special summon a Gem Knight Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. But if you have Gem Knight Fusion in your graveyard, you can send up to 2 non-rock Gem Knight monsters from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard as fusion materials. We're going to do that. And we are going to dump this Fairy Gem Knight Quartz and this Fairy Gem Knight Nefarium, or whatever. I'm losing my mind. There's so many fake names here. And now we can special summon Seraphonite, which, if you don't know, gives you another normal summon. But this is where it gets hilarious, because that means this deck has been given 3 normal summons a turn, which is funny. But now we're going to use Gem Knight Quartz in the graveyard. When it's sent to the graveyard for a fusion summon, you can add back a Gem Knight monster from your graveyard to your hand. And our 3rd normal summon will be used for Nefarium. So now we got 2 level 4s on board. Finally, this is a Gemini monster, and Geminis are the worst mechanic in the entire game because Konami does not know what a good effect actually is. But this one has a pretty good quotations effect. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Gem monster from your graveyard to target a Gem Knight card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So we are going to banish a Gem Knight monster to add a Gem Knight card from our graveyard to your hand, and we are going to add Dispersion. And now, because, like I was saying earlier, we get to use this other effect to add a Gem monster from our deck or banishment to your hand. Also, the effect damage we inflict is halved. Oh no. And we are going to add Obsidian. Next, we are going to banish Lazuli to add Gem Knight Fusion to our hand. And let's see. I think we are going to Fusion Summon with Gem Knight Fusion, toss Obsidian and Iolite to make Zirconia. And then Obsidian has a graveyard effect. When it's sent from the hand to the graveyard, you special summon a level 4 lower normal Gem Knight monster, which is a Gemini Iolite. Next, we are going to overlay these 2 into Infernal Flame Banshee. But before we're done with this, we are going to go ahead and activate Phantom Quartz, pay 1,000. That allows us to fusion summon by shuffling back that are monsters that are banished or in the graveyard. So we're going to shuffle back this Gem Knight and this Fairy into Lady Rose Diamond, which this card has the powerful effect of being a level 8 monster to go with my level 8 monster to make a rank 8, which we will go with Hope Harbinger. Next, we will detach a material from Infernal Flame Banshee, and we will add Spirit of the Flames. Now, in this specific combo, this could be Galliant Granite searching Rock Spirit or whatever. But what it matters in other situations is that when you banish this, it can actually bring itself back. So you create 2 materials, or with the combo I'm about to do 3 materials. But with this combo, all your zones are occupied, so you can't really do that. So regardless, anyways. So we are going to go ahead and link these 2 away into Cross Sheep, and then we are going to special summon this by banishing the Banshee, and then the Cross Sheep will trigger because it's pointing to a fusion to revive a level 4. Now what was I gonna say? Don't worry about it. Oh, yeah. The reason these Pyros can matter is because Gem Knight is broken into 3 types besides, well, technically 4 types now, besides Rock, and that's Pyro, Thunder, and Aqua. So, like, randomly those type supports can benefit Gem Knight, so that's, like, a neat thing to keep in mind. Next, we are going to overlay these 2 level 4s into Giant Hand, and then we will link these 2 off into Silo Hat, and we will set the statue. Yay! And then finally, on our opponent's main phase, we can go ahead and tribute this guy, which we are finally using its effect, and we can summon from our graveyard or extra deck non-rock Gym Knights. So we will special summon a fairy, 2 fairies, which will be this and this. And then on summon, this will go ahead and get us a new Gym Knight for follow-up, which I guess we could get Void Roots. And then we could also, like, banish whatever. Yeah, we'll banish this to add this to our hands before we end our turn. So we'll have, like, a 5-card hand with follow-up. But what is this end board exactly? Well, first and foremost, this can be an MST with this, and it's a summon negation. Very nice. Spell negation, monster negation, but then finally, Void Roots has another effect. While it's in the graveyard and you control a Gym Knight fusion monster, you can banish 3 Gym Knight cards from your graveyard, including itself, to negate that card, and then all Gym Knight fusions, or Gym Knights, period. Yeah, all Gym Knight monsters, period, gain 1,000 attack. So, you just have an Omni to Grave just chilling in your graveyard, which is nice. So that's, like, quite a bit of interactions for what was ultimately discarding 1 card and activating Brilliant Fusion, which in the grand scheme isn't that insane. Because the next combo I'm going to show you is way more simple, but it's, like, nearly identical to what I just did. But that's kind of what I wanted to show off. Because this deck is moving away from the FTK, you kind of have to be a little more innovative with what you're trying to do, and I think it is a good way to set it up. Not to mention, these two set up like a really nice resource loop. But there's one weakness I want to go over. Look how many cards are in my extra deck. A very fundamental problem with what is going on right here is that when you have... This deck basically needs a 20-card extra deck before I can even decide how restricted this extra deck is. This extra deck, quite literally, I will say, is incomplete, and it cannot be completed because of the fact that it is not big enough for me to even decide how incomplete it is. If you think about what we're doing here, we are summoning fusion monsters whose sole purpose is to be a material for another monster. And this is kind of a problem because of the fact that, like, it means your 1 extra deck monster needs 3 extra deck monsters for it to exist. Like, this extra deck is beyond tight. It barely functions, barely operates. This is like the first time I've truly thought, like, you know, the extra deck size could increase. Because originally the reason I've never wanted it to is because it kind of just promotes combo decks not, like, sparing their resources. But what I've realized recently, because this isn't the only deck I've noticed it with, older archetypes, when they get a new wave of support, they kind of have to push out old extra deck monsters. But the problem with this is some of those extra deck monsters were just straight up, like, necessities. So the only thing that's really happened is, while they got new powerful tools, they actually became way more restricted on what they could even utilize their extra deck to do. And it was the first time I was like, you know, this is kind of dumb. Like, this deck literally loses power based on getting new cards for their extra deck. And I thought, you know, it might actually be time to increase the extra deck size. Because if you're going to support decks that need the extra deck, and they're, like, new support for older decks, like, you're straight up cutting away how powerful their extra deck can be simply because of this restriction. So it's, like, the first time I ever felt, yeah, increase its size. But now that we got this combo out of the way, and I've explained the weakness this deck is having, I'll do one other to show you something that doesn't use Brilliant Fusion. Now, for this next combo, really, what I was going to draw a random hand. I was like, if I draw Armadillo, that's like a good demonstration of another 1-card combo. But this was my hand, and this is an insane combo, Armadillo plus Obsidian. And then I just have 3 hand traps to go with it. So that's a perfect demonstration of what I wanted to show off. So we'll start off, we'll normal summon Armadillo, which can search a Gym Knight monster, and we will search Void Roots, summon it by dumping Gym Knight Fusion. Next, we will link summon into Phantom Quartz, and Phantom Quartz will search us another Gym Knight card, and this time we will get Dispersion, and we'll activate Dispersion to summon Seraphonite by dumping a Light and a Gym Knight, and we will dump Nephrium and Iolite. And this is why I love this combo so much when you open both of them, because we will go ahead and summon Nephrium by sending a card from our hand to the graveyard, which will then allow us to summon Iolite, and then we'll finally get our search with Nephrium, which we can go ahead and search another copy of Obsidian. And we've only used one of our 3 normal summons, so let's go ahead and use our second one to turn this into an effect monster, and we will banish Obsidian, add this back to our hand, and that will, of course, allow us to use the third, to get another Gem Knight monster, and we will search Amber. Let's see what we want to do next. Because we've already used this normal summon, we are going to go ahead and get Infernal Flame Banshee. We will detach the Nephrium specifically to go ahead and search the Spirit of Flames. Next, we will banish the Nephrium to add back Gem Knight Fusion, and then we will pay 1,000 life points to go ahead and shuffle these 2 back for a fairy, which will be the Lady Rose Diamond. Next, we will link these 2 off into Cross Sheep. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way now. And then we will go ahead and activate Gem Knight Fusion, tossing a rock and a Gem Knight for Zirconia. If it will load. There we go. And then, of course, this Cross Sheep will activate to revive a level 4, which will be Iolite, and then the Obsidian will activate to revive the Amber. Now, we have one more normal summon left, so we will banish the Obsidian to add back Gem Knight Fusion, and we will normal summon Amber this time, and we will toss a Gem Knight card to add a target one of our banished monsters, period. Banished monsters, period. So that could be fun. And add it to our hand, which will be that Obsidian. Next, we'll overlay these 2 into, where is it? 38. And let's see what we have to work with in our graveyard. So what we are going to do here is really just overlay these 2, and that will allow us to make Giant Hand. Then we will banish the Infernal Flame Banshee, which will summon itself back. And I think what we can do is just link these 2 away into the Sill Hat. And the funny thing is... Yeah, I did not have enough room, but I think there was a line that I could have had the normal in the graveyard for Obsidian, and I could have, in theory, ended on SP, but that might have just been wishful thinking. Because one more monster would have allowed me to have that on board. Or room for one more monster. Let me rephrase that. Room for one more monster. So, what do we have here? Giant Hand, the statue. Oh! So, we have an Omni Negate Engrave. We have the MST with the Summon Negate, the Spell Negate, the Monster Negate, and we also drew 3 hand traps, which is nice. I don't have much of anything else to say besides that. I actually think it's kind of funny. Really what I want to say is, this deck is so close to being what they wanted to pivot the deck into, but again, a 15-card extra deck is not very... like, beneficial to this kind of playstyle, because, like, in order to make this deck last for more than its exact 1 turn, you, like, have to play multiple of this, and maybe even multiple fusion monsters like this, like 3 materials. It is so tricky to figure out, but regardless of that, hopefully you enjoyed this video, because I think what has happened is people have been seeing the FTK around for so long. The very idea of just trying something else probably went over their head, but I think it's fun to experiment. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinner Flex will take your soul.